In April 1968, after President Lyndon B. Johnson said he would not run for re-election, the race for the White House was wide open. Stewart Mott surveyed the entire field, flirting with Republicans like George Romney and Nelson Rockefeller, before throwing his support to the liberal Democrat Eugene McCarthy.
Nelson Rockefeller seemed like a possibly viable candidate for the Republican nomination. I took out a double-page ad in the New York Times. Ads said, George Romney, thank you for telling it like it is. I'm sorry you've withdrawn. Nelson Rockefeller, it's your turn. And formation of a citizens committee and a coupon to send in. But when Rockefeller went nowhere in terms of making a decision to run or a false start, I turned to McCarthy, who a lot of my friends had urged me to get involved with the McCarthy campaign. I spent the next several months raising money and giving money to the McCarthy campaign. I went out to Chicago and was gassed along with others. Very memorable part of my life. That year, 68, and then again in 72, I started backing George McGovern. I was probably the largest single donor to the McGovern campaign and a heavy-duty fundraiser. Those were very heady days, and I got to be known as a maverick coming from a very Republican General Motors family. And that part of my career, even though I backed, you might say, losers, I'm glad I did. I think they made a very important statement for their era.
Your political contributions landed you a prominent place on President Nixon's enemies list.
I was on Nixon's enemies list not just once, but 3 times. There were only 2 other people similarly listed, Paul Newman. The other was Daniel Schorr, CBS White House correspondent, who got fired for being too harsh on Nixon. I wore the designation as an enemy of the White House as a badge of honor. I knew I couldn't take it very seriously. It wasn't genuinely a Nixon list. It was John Dean's list, after all.
Now, after 3 elections in which you backed losers, do you feel that change can be achieved through presidential politics? Do you still believe in the political process?
Yes, the answer, I do think positive change can come about. It's like sweeping the Aegean stables, or Sisyphus rolling a boulder up the hill. I look forward to a day when we have a philosopher king as president, one who the great majority of the United States public can, and nations throughout the world can respect.
There's a building around the corner from the Supreme Court, and hard by the Capitol, called the Mott House. It's also been referred to as the House of Un-American Activities. What goes on in there?
Having lived in New York and previously in Flint, Michigan, I realized that Washington, D.C. was a place that I needed to spend a lot of time. But it would serve as my apartment and office, as well as extra space to lease out to other groups. Most recently, the ACLU had its Washington office there, and now the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. I love the fact that it's become such a feature in the lives of Washington liberal progressive politics. I'm very proud of my ownership of the house. I never meant for it to be called the Mott House, but eventually I acceded to that because everybody else was calling it the Mott House.
How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy?
I can't say that I've really felt that there's a purpose on Earth for which I was destined. I've tried to leave the planet Earth a bit better off than I found my campsite. I've spent probably 3/4 or 2/3 anyway of the financial resources I've had available to me on philanthropic or public service or political activity. I've not aspired to have a great deal of additional wealth, and don't need fancy things to satisfy me. I've cherished the relationships I've had with people. But I've also had fun along the way. And I can't imagine living otherwise.